So that might completely wipe out your profits.
We've had 3 bad years now.
And you just got to be careful. It's a bit of a balancing act.
They're working really hard, but the profits just aren't there at the moment. Hello, my name's James Sewell, and I'm the Joint Managing Director of Wright Vigar.
And I'm Anthony Bakes. I'm the Head of Tax for Wright Vigar.
Over the next few minutes, Anthony and I are going to talk about some of the pertinent issues affecting the agricultural industry at this point in time. A lot of things happen in cycles, and certainly with farming over the years, it's been like that. Either different areas of farming will be doing stronger than others, but around here there's quite a lot of arable farmers, and it's just hard at the moment. You know, the cost of input and the prices it just doesn't really stack up. There's not a great deal of fat in things at the moment, and whilst they've got these stressful kind of fundamental succession things to sort out as well, it's a very interesting sector, really, a very interesting business where you can't do a great deal around your costs or your prices. And also you look at the cost of machinery, for example, it's expensive, and for machinery that you only need for a short period of time during the year, cost of repairs is expensive. So I think with the government sort of plans to tax and the costs of running farming businesses, there's probably a bit of consolidation happening at the moment.
Do you think that's a real help then, the economies of scale, helping people to maybe they can have that more expensive piece of kit because they've got a larger farm to service?
Yeah, generally. I think we've seen it in a lot of businesses, a lot of other sectors. There's consolidation, and you do benefit from economies of scale, but try saying that to the small farmer who can't make ends meet at this point in time. It's easier said than done, because like you were just saying, actually they're custodians of the land, and their job is to pass it down to the next generation.
Yeah, they're in business, but they're not in business for themselves. They're in business for the generations below them.
So that whole emotional dilemma is just hard, because they're working really hard, but the profits just aren't there at the moment. And I say we go in cycles, but actually we've had 3 bad years now, and the outlook doesn't look that strong either. So it's difficult talking to other professionals that operate in the agricultural sector. I'm getting similar sort of feedback. Some of the generally banks like farmers, certainly if they own the land as well, because they've got, asset value there that they can secure into. But I think it feels like just at this point in time there's a little bit of selling off of land just to balance the books. So generally farms are probably shrinking a little bit just to balance the books. So it's hard, Anthony. I hate being too down on and pessimistic, but it's just very tricky at the moment. So people are having to work hard. Any savings that you can make, let's stay really open-minded and switched on to diversification, just knowing at this point in time we've probably got not got loads of money to throw at things, and the bank is all of a sudden probably just a bit more interested than they have been in the recent past.
Yeah, we've got a lot of clients that have gone down the chicken shed route. It seemed to be quite profitable.
I think beef farmers are doing, the cattle farmers, they're doing well at the moment. Their prices are quite high. If you have got some development land to sell off, land prices for development is good. So there are pockets that are doing it, but it's if you definitely need to sort of be open-minded, need to be budgeting, and need to be looking at things hard, because the danger is if you're not, and you are consecutively making losses, which we are starting to see, then you are eroding what you've got. And so unfortunately some hard decisions might need to be made. So it's a really tricky, hard sector. It's one that we have got a lot of clients in, and very happy to help and work with them, and also work with their other professional advisors, just to try and make sure that the plans are in place for the best possible outcome for the farmers.
One thing that we have seen is, unfortunately, we've seen a couple of disputes among family members in farms, and they can be extremely damaging.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the nature of the beast, I suppose, a little bit. We always have a handful of disputes on, obviously, land values are high, and so you don't need too many acres before we're talking about quite a lot of money. And so making sure that you have got robust partnership agreements, shareholders agreements in place just helps sort the situation no end. I think in my portfolio clients, I'll have at least a couple of these each year, and it's very sad, it's very damaging, but unfortunately as well, it's expensive. So, but if we can lean on good, robust partnership and shareholders agreements, and as I say, whilst people might not like the outcome, at least we can get outcomes, and they've all abided by these or signed up to a set of rules on how they resolve.
And what it can do as well is it can give certainty, because in a lot of situations with farming partnerships, they've kind of gone on for many years.
Yeah.
No written agreement. There's areas of land they don't really know whether it's owned by the partnership or a particular partner.
Yeah.
And those kind of things can lead to disputes in the future.
Yeah.
Quite expensive, damaging disputes. And a partnership agreement would just lay out who owns what.
Yeah.
What happens if someone dies? What happens if there's a fallout?
Yeah.
It will resolve those.
Yeah. Agreed. I wondered what you thought, Anthony, around sort of capital allowances and R&D in agriculture. I get asked, and we speak to clients quite a bit about those two areas. Where are those things at within agriculture at the moment?
Yeah, so I'll start with R&D. R&D has gone through a bit of an evolution over the past couple of years. Going back 2 or 3 years, there were a lot of claims being made by a lot of people that maybe weren't quite as robust as they should have been. So the government, as they typically would, they've kind of used a sledgehammer to crack a nut, and they've made the R&D landscape very difficult now. So yes, we are definitely still doing claims in agriculture where someone is developing something, a process or a technology, and it's a genuine advancement in science or technology. Those areas still qualify, and it's still a very valuable relief for the people that do qualify. So yes, definitely one to keep an eye on and consider, but it's not quite as easy as it was 5 years ago when HMRC would essentially rubber stamp everything.
Yeah.
And on the capital allowances side of things, yes, a very important area. Can a big combine harvester purchase, what would that be, half a million?
And some, I think, nowadays, yeah.
Quite often you can get 100% tax write-off for that asset on day one. So that might completely wipe out your profits, taxable profits. It might even give you something to carry back as a loss. So yes, can be very valuable. Also, if you're putting up agricultural buildings or chicken sheds, the frame of the building itself qualifies for quite a small allowance called Structures and Buildings Allowance, which is a 3% relief. But within that building, there will be embedded fixtures, plant and machinery, and what's called integral features. So things like the heating systems, plumbing systems, lighting systems, electrical systems, they will all qualify for capital allowances. And it can be a significant amount of tax relief. And sometimes people miss these claims, actually, particularly smaller accountants where they don't have the expertise maybe in-house. They will miss these claims. But they can be, it can be between 20 and 40% of the build cost is in plant and machinery, depending on what kind of building you've got. A hotel, say, would be at the higher end.
Yeah.
A prefabricated warehouse would be at the lower end. You've got everything in between. An office might be 25, 30%. So, significant amounts of allowances. Again, typically you'll get those in full on day one. So again, it can be really useful.
Yeah.
As a tax saving tool.
Yeah. And I think another area I've seen in agriculture, certainly with farmer clients, is that there's been a little bit of diversification into holiday lets, furnished holiday lets. So yeah, it never rains, it pours. There've been some changes in that area as well. Still seems like it's a good business. Staycation was rife during COVID. Maybe not quite as popular as it was, as now we can travel offshore, but still seems quite popular. Occasionally you'll hear people say, well, it's not worth doing now. I think it's still worth doing now, Anthony, isn't it? But it's just the tax isn't quite as good.
I would say so. If you're within a limited company and you want to kind of maximise all your different ways to make profit, you've got to look at all areas. So if you've got a big trading business and you start in an investment business such as a holiday let business, that's fine as long as the holiday let doesn't become bigger than the farm. So that's always the balance. The company must be wholly or mainly trading to get the tax reliefs, to get the 5 million allowance, to get the 20% tax rate. So if you're doing things on the side that are not trading, like chicken sheds typically will not be trading because you'll often let them to the local company who buy the chickens, or holiday lets typically not trading. You just got to be careful. It's a bit of a balancing act. But yes, within those boundaries of making sure you're still a trading business overall, I think it's very valuable.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Well, I think at the moment in that sector, it's tricky. So it feels like having these conversations around planning, getting belt and braces on partnership agreements, shareholders agreements, succession planning, liaising with your farm consultants to make sure budgets are in place and there's a bit of a plan in place, looking at those budgets and just sensitising them a little bit in terms of what if incomes go down a little bit, what if costs go up a little bit. I think it's just good, definitely, to stay switched on and not oblivious to this will just sort itself out, because say it's just really hard times at the moment, and I don't think that will wash at the moment.
Do you do quite a lot of sort of general tax planning for your farmers, don't you? So managing income tax liabilities, looking at the split of profits.
Yeah, certainly. So I suppose that side of things, almost like any business in any sector, really making sure that you utilise people's basic rate bands, you don't pay any unnecessary tax. Then you need to, obviously, if you're self-employed, looking at averaging. But actually, we still have quite a few large farming partnerships with chunky profits and therefore chunky tax bills and chunky payments on account, which is painful for them. So yeah, it's trying to look at limited companies, and yes, the benefit of use of limited company isn't quite as good as it used to be, but it still might be worth incorporating if you haven't already. VAT and farming, making sure that looking at the private and business use on certain mixed costs, making sure you're claiming the right amount of VAT. Often we'll have farmers doing conversion work on barns, or maybe they're building new property, making sure that you claim any VAT back that you possibly can. So there are quite a few other things. Going back when MTD came in, we had quite a lot of farming clients that had to change from doing their bookkeeping in large red ledgers into a computerized system. And maybe there's been having had that same system for the first 100 years of business, they've had to change onto the computerized system, and that transition went reasonably well. Certainly we helped quite a lot. In a few cases we probably did it all, not that many really, and actually there's been a few more sort of software updates and new systems that clients have transferred onto. So yeah, there's what I would refer to as the general business advice and tax planning that happens with all different sectors, but there's also these quirky things that the kit, when you mentioned combine harvester, maybe 500,000 might buy you as a 1-year-old one, or a demonstrator, something like that, but there's not many businesses that need to spend that amount of money on something that they just need for a few weeks of the year. So there are these quirky things, and there's also other professionals I think to work with. I think it's important that we almost stay in our lane really, in terms of we can advise and make sure the tax is as palatable as it possibly can be, but we won't tell you what SFI scheme to go into, or what to plant in that field over there, or what brand of tractor to get. So I think it's good to have a good professional team actually, and one that we can work with as well. Often all of our clients, no matter what sector, but certainly farming, they'll ask us all different types of questions and want opinions on certain things. It's just nice at times we can lean on other professionals that are part of their team. If I feel that it's straying outside of our area of expertise. I know we've picked up a lot of work from sort of other accountants where they just need hand holding at this point in time, which is a really important part of their, I suppose, family legacy and situation, and they just want to make sure that someone's looking out for them. And unfortunately there are fees associated with sorting a lot of this succession work out, but hopefully it's money well spent for the longer term.
I think, like you say, the partnership agreement side of things is so important nowadays, and partnership agreement, shareholders agreements, particularly in families.
Keeping them up to date.
Keeping them up to date as well. I think you said you'd seen one that was 30 years old and hadn't been updated.
Yeah. So I'll often say we've got one somewhere, but it just has to be up to date.
Got to be up to date, and that just heads off any disputes that there can be.
Yeah. I think when you have new partners joining, new shareholders, that is an opportunity to do it, really.
And something else you mentioned that I'll just pick up on quickly is the incorporation of farming partnerships. Now, this is an area where we have done quite a number, actually, and there can be a lot of tax benefits, not just the income tax benefits on sort of getting it into a company structure, but also quite a few other succession planning benefits. So that is something that I would recommend to many clients to consider. I will certainly consider it for our client base on an ongoing basis.
Hopefully you found that interesting in terms of Anthony and my update on the agricultural sector. If any of you would like any further information on anything we've discussed, please don't hesitate to contact either of us. Thank you.